when I said at the beginning of this interview that it was actually a really great year for me last year and this year, that is purely from a work perspective. It was a very hard year. To see the hardship that so many people around the world were going through and are still going through. The fact that I was completely isolated from my friends and family in the Netherlands. There was no opportunity to travel to see them. You know, my dad is also 83. You know, he's getting older. He had periods where he wasn't not so great, and so not to be able to go and spend time with them and put them at risk, that was tough, and that was tough for a lot of people in the world to deal with that. And so what was great about it for me is that from a composer standpoint of view, living in a pandemic or without the pandemic, it doesn't really make all that much difference. You know, you go to the studio, in my case, usually around 4 or 5 in the morning, and you stop at around 8, 9 o'clock at night. You have dinner, you make some phone calls, and you watch a little bit of Netflix, and you go to bed. How is that any different than the year before when there was no pandemic? It's not. So what was interesting, though, is that I have this super tiny house in Tarzana that I just love to live. And I have this tiny little room upstairs, which is only 5 by 5 feet or 5 by 6 feet. And I basically built a work setup there. And I just worked from there on my own for a whole year. And that was interesting because it was absolutely in complete isolation with no crosstalk with my assistants or with anybody. And it was that was very interesting. And it made it more intense. And at the same time, I'm sure you've heard this with some other composers that you talk to, or you will in the coming episodes, is that everybody had to be so darn creative this year, like how to get music recorded, how to get it mixed, and how to get it out. And when I mean get it out, is physically. How do I upload 180 gigabytes of data within 6 hours so people have it in time? You know, it's incredible. And that's where I felt so blessed because I call myself a full contact composer, which means I play a lot of instruments, but I also record all my stuff. I mix all my stuff. I master all my stuff. How happy was I that I knew these skills from back in the day, because I was able to do everything on my own here upstairs without having to rely on a studio that mixes all my stuff, and then it comes back, and then this and that. So it was challenging to record because from the orchestral side of things, and I'm gonna now name like a few movies in a group that I've worked on last year. One is Godzilla vs. Kong. Then it's the spy movie 355 for Universal that is coming out at a certain point, and Justice League, and Army of the Dead. So I have seen recording scenarios with one violin player in his bedroom, and then it was, we can record 3 string players max in this little studio over here with masks and with plastic shields and everything. And then there was a moment, it's going better now in London, we can record 18 string players in one room. And then 2 days later, sorry Tom, the restrictions have been back on, we can't record anybody here, you have to do it at home. So I have so many different types of recording, and I had to mix all these recording to make sure that it constantly sounded as one film score throughout. So it was so much extra work. Normally, when a movie is done and you go into the orchestration process, recording and mixing, LA is such a well-oiled machine, and so are some of these other international cities that are focused on film music. We can do it in 10 days if we have to. Score is done, poof, army of orchestrators, get all the people in the room, let's record it, a few different mix studios, everything, and it's done in 10, 12 days. With COVID, 18 weeks for the same work. 18 weeks. It's
and
insane.
then stuff's probably out of sync. You have to, because it's not all done at the same time, so it's not recorded in one spot. So then you have to kind of piece that puzzle all together too.
It's incredible because I would get recordings from a violin player. I would get all the separate little takes that he did, punch in, punch out, and I get like hundreds of files.
You have to comp everything,
I have to piece the whole thing together, and then somebody was working with this software, somebody's working with that software. One person records him or herself with one microphone, another person has 5 microphones to record. It was insane.